and great communities work hand in hand.
Sponsored by the Nebraska State Education Association, aired by the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
Grab a free burger and beer at Elway Power Sports of Lincoln on April 27th during their Husker Spring Game tailgate. Meet the Elway Power Sports team, play some tailgate games with them, and enter for a chance to win an official John Elway autographed football. Check out their huge selection of boats and watercraft for the summer, along with hundreds of motorcycles, ATVs, and side-by-sides from all the major brands. Stop out and watch the game with them on April 27th, Elway Power Sports of Lincoln, 27th and I-80. They'll be tailgating all day. Are you looking to get into the electrical construction industry or wanting a new scene? The electrical workers of local union 265 are now hiring licensed journeymen and apprentices and are offering great pay and benefits. Call Mike at 402-875-1034 to apply. Start your electrical career today.
Hey guys, Jake Sorensen here from Early Break. The garage door at our house has been needing replacement for a couple years, and a few months ago, we finally did something about it. Steve's Garage Doors and Services was great through the whole process in providing options and also going to the next level to get a door that was approved by our HOA. And best of all, the removal of the old door and installation of the new door was done smoothly with no issues. Call Steve's Garage Doors and Services today at 402-480-2840.
This is Adam Carriker on the ticket.
Position right of the quarterback out of the shotgun, 1st and 20. Jailbreak screen in the air. It is tipped. It is intercepted by Carriker at the Missouri 21-yard line.
Live from the heart of Lincoln, America, 8-year NFL vet and All-American defensive lineman Adam Carriker.
Shotgun snap to Everett. He's got the left arm going, and now he's got a whole lot of Adam Carriker who rips him down inside the 25-yard line.
On 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com. Here's your host, Adam Carriker.
Welcome everybody into Adam Carriker on The Ticket. Hope you're having a phenomenal Monday as always. It's a loaded show. I got to dive right into it. We got to dispense with the pleasantries. Okay, easy for me to say. And dive into it and light this candle. As always, it's a loaded show. All right, right off the top, we're going to talk about Nebraska's offense dominates a scrimmage better than they ever have last Saturday. Okay, I'm going to be joined in about 5 minutes or so. Joe Hutmaker, Nash Hutmaker's dad. Joe is a man who clearly works out. He's going to be joining me for about 10 to 15 minutes. Then at 12:30, Outland Trophy winner, All-American, 12-year NFL vet, national champ Zach Wiegert's going to be joining me. And I'm finally going to give my thoughts on what I perceive to be Nick Saban's NIL hypocrisies to end this show today. Arguably the greatest coach of all time. But it comes across like a hypocrisy, his approach, and why he left the game as it relates to NIL, in my humble opinion. Okay, and I do want to shout out once again Bonzel Pool, all right, bonzelpool.com. All right, they are putting in my family's pool. That's why I'm shouting them out. They're located in the Pioneer Plaza. Okay, address 3201 Pioneers Boulevard, number 30, Lincoln, Nebraska. Phone number 402-488-0148. That's Bonzel Pool and Spa. I will be in studio on Friday. They're at 93.7 The Ticket. And I never know who's going to be helping me with the show. Today it's Jake. Jake's the man behind the scenes making the magic happen. So I'm either going to be doing the show with Jake or Rico. If Rico ain't scared, if Jake ain't scared, if they're all scared, I'll do it myself. If they both want to join, they're more than welcome. Let's light this candle on Friday. All right, as you know, every Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, noon to 1 p.m. Central Time. It is the fastest hour in radio here on 93.7 The Ticket. I am live Mondays and Fridays. Tuesdays, the Carriker Chronicles. Thursdays, the Big Ten Show. And don't forget about Wednesdays. Former All-American Nebraska quarterback Steve Taylor drops that knowledge. Grab your lunch, have fun, and join me for the loaded hour, the fastest hour in radio, each and every day here on 93.7 The Ticket. And as always, you can send your fan questions, thoughts, concerns, or otherwise. I am now reading them throughout the show to 402-464-5685. All right, I got a couple of minutes. Again, it's loaded. It's fast. Let's light this candle to chat about Nebraska's offense before I bring on Nash Hutmaker's father, Joe Hutmaker. All right, now Nebraska ran about 200 plays in their scrimmage on Saturday. Am I the only one that's like 200? That's a lot of plays. They had to have had multiple scrimmages going on at once, or it was like a 4-hour scrimmage. There was one scrimmage we had under Callahan where we just kept going forever and ever and ever and ever, and it just never ended. We probably ran, I don't know, God, like 5 million plays, it felt like. But It was about drilling toughness into us, okay? He said guys who will get a lot of game reps, all right, rested on Saturday. He was hesitant to use that term just a smidge because it can be perceived as soft by some people. You know, and I get that, but Matt Rule's not a soft coach. I don't really get too concerned about that. Okay, he did say this is the most dominant day we've had on offense ever. Explosive plays, big plays. That's got to be exciting. Now, he did say they got to run the ball a little bit better than they did Saturday. Didn't run the ball as well as they had hoped. They did have one fumble, but all three quarterbacks played really well. And he's liking the in-helmet communication with quarterbacks. It's transformational. You know, what an idea. You can talk directly to your quarterback. What a concept. And it's going to make things easier. Like, why wasn't this done like decades ago? Okay. And so he thinks that they still got to work on some of the lowlights. In other words, some of the big mistakes are still there. They're still working on getting rid of those. Obviously, there's more highlights. Obviously, there was more big plays, but the run game wasn't as consistent as he would have hoped. Okay, and got to continue to improve on some of the lowlights, which has hindered Nebraska over the years, especially in those close games, those close losses in the fourth quarter, late in games, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, and he does think that it is important, okay, to see how quarterbacks handle frustration. The two positions that have to have the shortest memory of any position on the entire football team is quarterback and cornerback. A really good cornerback, you're going to get beat from time to time. That other guy's on scholarship too. That other guy's working out. That other guy's trying to eat right, at least sometimes. Like, they're all watching film. At some point, the wide receiver is going to win too, no matter how good you are. And if you give up an 80-yard touchdown pass, that sucks. That's in front of everybody, and you're the guy on the highlight getting beat. That's tough. That's why cornerbacks have to have the shortest memory, and no position in all of sports is more scrutinized than quarterback for a football team. They have to have the shortest memories, the thickest skin, and the most amount of confidence and the highest amount of resiliency. Okay. All three quarterbacks played really well. He talked about how Heinrich Haarberg is throwing better, significantly better than he was a year ago. I've said the guy can throw. I've never said he can't throw. I've never said he's a bad passer. If you watch my chronicles, if you watched or listened to what I said here on the ticket last fall, I always said mechanics. It always comes back to mechanics. That's all I've ever said. I've seen the guy throw when he had good mechanics, and he can throw. He's got an arm. He really does. He runs even better than I thought he would, and I thought he would surprise people with his legs, and then he surprised me, even though I thought he would surprise people. The fact is, the dude can throw, but not with good mechanics. Nobody can. If his mechanics are better, I don't doubt for one iota of a millisecond that Heinrich Haarberg's throwing a lot better. Okay, can't name a starting quarterback yet. Wants to give them all a fair shot. Makes sense. And I don't think anybody really expected a starter to be named just yet. He did want to clarify that he yelled at the entire team for a lack of energy, okay, in one of their previous practices / scrimmages, etc., not just the defense, which is what I talked about on Friday because that's what I had been told. So it was the entire team, and he said Jamal Banks makes a difference when he's on the field at wide receiver, and the helmet communication just allows every quarterback to get more mental reps, but offenses are going to try to go even faster. Can you imagine what Chip Kelly's going to try to do at Ohio State? They tried to snap the ball once every 18 seconds at Oregon. He was never that fast at UCLA. But now that he can talk directly to the quarterback, he might try to snap the ball once every 8 seconds. Who knows? All right, ladies and gentlemen, I do want to get to our first guest. It's always loaded. That's why it's the fastest hour in radio. All right. Shout out to Vershawn and Terrell, but the fastest hour in radio is faster than the fastest 2 hours in radio, my friends. All right. So I want to bring on my first guest. They do a great job. I shouted them out on the Chronicles actually recently. Their interview with Mike Minter was phenomenal. So go check that out if you get a chance. Tyler Olson says, Adam, 2 exclamation points. And then he says, Joe is a dude. I agree. So let's bring on Nash Hutmaker's dad, Mr. Joe Hutmaker. How you doing, my friend?
How's it going, Adam?
Dude, life is good. And I'm looking at a picture right now that my man Jake is putting up. I sent Jake another picture after senior wrestling day when you're standing there with Mama Hutmaker and Nash, your son. Dude, I got to ask, what type of workouts are you doing? Because you're clearly hitting the gym and you're making the weight room bleed. So what type of workouts are you doing, my friend? I'm very curious.
You know, I used to do a lot of heavy deadlifting, squatting, and benching, but I've kind of moved away from that, and I just call it the old man workout. I do a lot of dumbbell work and try to get in and lift weights 3 or 4 days a week. Separate back one day, back and buys, shoulders, chest, butt tries another day, and a little bit of legs. I got to throw a little bit of legs in there.
The obligatory leg day. I love that. All right. So I'm curious, and you would know as well as anybody outside of Nash himself, he had to drop, I forget exactly what it was, 20, 30, 40 pounds for wrestling. How challenging was that for Nash to try to lose that weight so he could wrestle at the appropriate weight?
You know, when I first got the call from Nash and said he told his mother and I that he had talked with Mark Manning, my first thought was, no way is this going to happen. I knew
Yeah.
he weighed. This was like right after the Iowa game, and he was weighing like 331 pounds, and I knew what he had to lose, but man, he did an awesome job. He was doing extra workouts. He worked with Kristen Coggins, the nutritionist, and her team, and they just did an outstanding job of helping him get there. I just can't say enough about him.
So now he has the task. Now, I've lost at one point in my life. I put on 100 pounds from my senior year of high school to the time I was playing with the Redskins. I went from 220 to 320. I did not stay at 320 long, but I was there for one day. And then I went all the way back down after I retired, back down to 220. I will tell you right now, for me personally, putting on weight is way more fun than taking off weight. But my next question is, now he's got to put on back 20, 30 pounds, whatever it may be, but he's got to put on the right weight. How's that process been so far for him up to this point?
I think he's doing great. And that's something that the nutritionists and coaches stressed is they want him to get back up to 310 pounds, but they want him to do it the right way. They want that weight to be the right weight. And, you know, he'll send me pictures of what he's cooking and eating. He likes to cook actually, and it'll be steak and salad. You know, he's throwing those greens in there, of course. And, he's really watching what he eats. And him and I have had that same talk. I said, you want to build back up to 310, but you want to make sure it's the right weight. And I think he's doing a pretty good job of that. And he's got a good team behind him that'll help him with that.
Well, being someone who's done something a little bit similar, I admire the willpower it takes to lose weight, the discipline it takes to put back on healthy weight. So when I lost 100 pounds and I got down to 220, the first thing I did is I went and I got a dozen donuts. Now, they were not all for me initially. So I had a flight to catch. I was going out to D.C. later that day, and I was going to admittedly eat 6 of them and then give the other 6 to my family. My 6 kids, my wife doesn't like donuts. Well, they were late getting home. So then all of a sudden I ate 7 and then 8 and then 9. Before I knew it, before I left to the airport on my flight, I'd eaten all dozen donuts. I woke up the next day at 2:32. So I'm so happy to hear that Nash is not putting on a dozen pounds by eating a dozen donuts real quickly. So I'm very happy to hear that. But I am curious, spring ball in general, I know they've kind of been limiting his reps just a smidge for various smart reasons, but I'm just curious, as he relays to you and chats with you, how has spring ball been going from Nash's perspective there?
Oh, I think initially when they were holding him back, there was a little frustration on his part. And I'm curious to see how that plays out, not just with Nash, but a lot of the 5th and 6th year players, you know, Ty Robinson, Ben Scott, Bryce Benhart, Nash, of course. They're participating in the individual drills, but they're not doing a lot of live reps. And I'm curious to see how all that plays out. Now with Nash, they wanted him, basically had been in competition for 8 months. He went from football at the end of August and went right into competing and training and wrestling, plus dropping the weight. They wanted his body to take a break, give him that at least a couple weeks of recovery. And I think he's definitely ready to go. He's hungry. He wants to do those live reps, but I understand what they're doing. But it is a little different than the approach some of the other coaches have taken in the past, holding those guys out. So I'm really curious to see this coming weekend how many reps those guys will get in the spring game.
I'm curious too. Tyler Olson has messaged in, said South Dakota Joe. I think he's giving you a shout out there, Joe. And I'm curious, as Nash's dad, from your perspective, he had taken a few years off of wrestling. And then he jumps into Big Ten type competition in wrestling since not having wrestled since high school. From your perspective, what was that like for him And what was your reaction when you found out, like, just beyond the weight, but like he's going to compete in the Big Ten after having taken a few years off? From your perspective, what was your reaction to that?
Initially, I was like, no, and then he kind of talked to me, and I could tell he was going to wrestle. There was no changing his mind.
Yeah,
and the concern on from the parent aspect is you get worried about injury, things like that, and so that was kind of nerve-wracking, that part of it. But Nash, there's always something in the back of my head that knew Nash and wrestling were not done. He just loved that sport so much, and it's hard to describe, but just the suffering of the workouts and you walk out on that mat, it's just you and that other guy, you shake hands, and what happens out there is up to you. So
I'm curious, what was Mama Hutmaker's reaction to all of this? The wrestling, having to lose and put on weight, coming back and playing football, basically not getting any time off for 8 months. Like, what was Nash's mom's reaction to all this?
Well, Nash's mom is a competitor, and she had nothing but excitement. She's a boy mom. She's a wrestling mom. Even our dogs are boys. And I think mostly she was excited about it. She loved to watch the boys wrestle. And when it looked like potentially they would never wrestle again, our youngest son is also in college football. And when it looked like they may never wrestle again when they went to college, she told me, I'm really going to miss that wrestling. So she was probably a lot more excited than I was about the whole aspect of seeing one of the boys on the mat again.
It's funny you mentioned your wife being a boy mom, so to speak. My wife, Angie, grew up on a farm, small town, blue collar, and she would have been perfectly fine having all boys. As luck would have it, we have 5 daughters and 1 boy. So let's just say she got really good at doing hair really quick, whether she really wanted to learn or not. But it's interesting. Some parents kind of fit one mold a little bit better than the other, and then you're forced to learn the other mold you may not be as comfortable with, and then all of a sudden it just fits like a glove too. So I'm curious, something I've wanted to ask you for years, because Nash came to Nebraska strong, and I've got to imagine you were the individual who kind of introduced him to working out, lifting weights. His squat is incredibly impressive. What was the introduction to weightlifting like, and at what age did you have him start working out?
When he was 12 years old, and I talked with the wrestling coach, and he was looking at he asked me, what would you think of Nash wrestling heavyweight next year on varsity as a 13-year-old? And it's like, man, those guys are big. We're going to have to get Nash strong. And I was a competitive power lifter. I traveled around the country competing in powerlifting. So I had that background. And I had helped coach football at the local high school and coach weightlifting. And I actually went to and watched Boyd Epley speak. I went to a couple of his strength clinics. And so I based a weightlifting program at our high school on Boyd Epley's strength program at Nebraska. And one thing I didn't allow Nash to do much of is bench. I didn't allow him to do a lot of benching or upper body stuff initially. We did a lot of deadlifting, back work, and squatting. I wanted him to get that technique down, learn to love to squat, and pretty soon he's asking me or telling me, Dad, people are wanting to know how much I bench. And I tell him, I don't care. Make a number up. It doesn't matter. I said, the squat's more important. That's where your motor's at, buddy. And then once he learned to love the squat and got that technique down and kind of mastered that, then we went on and started working more upper body stuff, kind of focusing on that. So
being a former power lifter yourself, what were some of the lifts that you kind of excelled at, or you would say were some of your better lifts that you did?
Powerlifting, if you're doing a 3-lift meet, it's bench press, deadlift, squat. And not to brag, but at one time I was ranked 5th in the nation in the ADFPA, which would have been the American Drug-Free Powerlifting Association, which doesn't even exist anymore. But, I had pretty respective numbers when I lifted.
Well, if you don't mind sharing what some of them are, and if you don't want to, that's fine. I think people would kind of be curious to hear what some of those numbers are.
I had about an 840-pound squat and a 775-pound deadlift, and I think the most I ever benched, even though it turned out not to be a legal lift, was about 605 pounds. So,
wow, that is very impressive.
Yeah.
What made it not a legal lift?
My butt came off the bench. You had to keep your butt in contact with the bench, and I used to arch my back pretty hard, and my butt would pop up off the bench. That was kind of one of the problems I had. But I think my best legal lift was around 575 pounds.
Did you ever use one of those bench press shirts? I forget. I think they're just called bench press shirts, but they're really tight compression shirts to prevent injury. But they do help you lift more weight. Or were you a raw bench presser?
Yeah, they absolutely do. And we did both raw meets. The crew I was with, we did both raw meets and equipped meets. Back then, there was pretty much Inzer and maybe one other company on the market that had bench shirts, and they weren't. I wouldn't compare them to the shirts and equipment they use now. I think there's been a lot of advancements and rule changes there, but we did both the raw, what was called a raw or unequipped, and the equipped meets back then.
When I was in high school, this is going to be so bad because I can't remember his name, and, we're live on radio with absolutely nobody listening. Ryan Keneally, does that name sound familiar? Or somebody who set a bench press record about 15 years ago? It was like 900 pounds. Does that name sound familiar at all? Ryan Keneally?
Yeah, I remember. I think he was one of the first guys to. I'm not sure that name's exactly right. I can't. It could be.
Yeah.
But I remember when the 900-pound barrier was broken, and of course, since then, the 1,000-pound barrier has been broken on the bench press. So, and then just technique and guys are getting bigger and stronger.
For sure. I remember watching. My dad took me because I was big into lifting, and he took me to watch, and he benched 900. I'll be honest, it did not look hard enough. Like it should have looked harder, and the person who was there was like, he's going to hit 1,000. He's going to be the first person to hit 1,000 relatively soon. That's when I was a true freshman, living in the good old dorms of Harper Schramm Smith. All right, so I'm curious, what are some of Nash's goals going into his senior season? Does he have any individual goals, any goals in particular for the unit on defense as a whole? Has he mentioned anything like that to you?
I think their goal is to be the number one defense in the country. I think they want to improve their pass rush, and Nash in particular wants to improve his pass rush. And I think that part of cutting the weight, and whether he had went out for wrestling or not, he wanted to get faster. And one of the ways to get faster, he wanted to maintain as much muscle mass and get down there around that 310 pounds. Make you maybe a step or so quicker. But I think as a unit, the impression I'm getting is they are bound and determined they want to be the number one defense in the country. They have to prove that, though.
It'll be exciting to watch. The D-line's going to be a force to reckon with. A couple of DBs that are stepping up in Bly Hill, Tommy Hill. Find a linebacker in the middle of that defense, and I think they're going to be a lot of fun to watch this fall. I appreciate you taking the time and joining me, Joe. Thank you very much.
You bet. Thanks, Adam.
All right, don't go anywhere, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be right back after this break with national champion, All-American, Outland Trophy winner, Zach Wiegert.
Hi, I'm Senator Bo Ballard. I was born and raised in Lancaster County, learning the value of hard work and grit at a young age. I built my own company, creating jobs right here in our community. I know that families and businesses in our community need lower taxes, lower cost of healthcare, and a great education. That's why, as your senator, I helped pass the largest tax cut and made the most significant investment in education in Nebraska history and worked to reduce the cost of healthcare. I'm Senator Bo Ballard, and I humbly ask for your vote on May 14th. Paid for by Ballard for Nebraska.
At Union Bank, people don't have your money. Your money has people. First home people, investment people, people who answer the phone and your chats, dream car people, dream retirement people, driving your dream car in your dream retirement people, small business people, credit card people, and all the other people you need. At Union Bank, our people help you do more than you dreamed possible. So stop in and say hello. We can't wait to see you. Union Bank and Trust. Member FDIC.
Hey, Husker Nation, Matt Davison here with 1890. It's an exciting time to be a Husker fan, and to keep that momentum going, we need your help. Nebraska has always been a leader in college athletics, and we're doing the same through name, image, and likeness. NIL is a unique opportunity for every Husker fan to have a direct impact on the success of our programs. Through 1890, 100% of your contribution goes to the student athletes. So go to 1890nebraska.com, choose your sport, become a member, and help the Huskers recruit and retain the best. Go Big Red.
Spring is here, and Acres is offering special financing on select new John Deere lawn tractors and zero-turn mowers. Visit your nearest Acres store and test drive all the latest John Deere turf equipment and attachments. And for a limited time, with the purchase of a new John Deere mower, get up to $200 to apply to the steel power tool of your choice. From trimmers to chainsaws, gas or electric, Acres is your home for steel products and service. Offer expires April 30, 2024. Subject to approved credit by John Deere Financial.
Spring is here, and it's time to wake up Judson. Judson Irrigation is eager and ready to get your sprinkler system up and running for the season. Judson's technicians will check for winter damage, adjust your sprinkler heads, and show you how to set your controller for effective sprinkling coverage. The Judson Irrigation team is here for you. Stay safe.
Keep summer green. Call Judson Irrigation 402-420-6277 or judsonirrigation.com.
Hey guys, Jake Sorensen here from Early Break. The garage door at our house has been needing replacement for a couple years, and a few months ago, we finally did something about it. Steve's Garage Doors and Services was great through the whole process in providing options and also going to the next level to get a door that was approved by our HOA. And best of all, the removal of the old door and installation of the new door was done smoothly with no issues. Call Steve's Garage Doors and Services today at 402-480-2840.
Rashawn Jackson here for Bauer Infrastructure, a veteran-owned local company proudly serving Lincoln, Lancaster County, and the surrounding areas. Bauer provides quality work at an affordable price, and they're growing rapidly. If you want to experience a career with a fast-paced, family-friendly environment, visit BauerInfrastructure.com. They have top-of-the-line benefits, year-round work, even through the winter. Bauer, usher in the new era of infrastructure to an area near you. And as always, go Big Red!
Hey there, fellas. It's your girl Jordan with Sartor Heyman Jewelry. Women may be complicated, but I make sure buying jewelry isn't. Your gal has a style, and you can figure this out. Is she more of a classic necklace kind of gal, or does she rock the boho chic vibe with layers of delicate bracelets? This is crucial intel. Not trusting your intel? Stop in the store and we'll sort out the details. I promise to make this super easy. Until next time, this is Jordan at Sartor Heyman Jewelry. Happy shopping, guys.
I see the future in our public school classrooms every day. I'm Jenny Benson, president of the Nebraska State Education Association. I also see how critically important parent and community support is to our students' success. Support your public schools. Get involved. Form a business school partnership or become a school volunteer. Great schools and great communities work hand in hand.
Sponsored by the Nebraska State Education Association, aired by the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
93.7 The Ticket is proud to provide listeners with daily opportunities to win contests and prizes on our airwaves, and would like to take this opportunity to remind you of a couple rules. All participants must be 21 or older and must wait 30 days after winning a prize before participating in another contest. Once you win, you have 30 days to pick up your prize at the K&TK Studios, 1040 O Street in Lincoln, or your prize will be forfeited. Thank you for participating in our contest, and thank you for listening to 93.7 The Ticket.
93.7 The Ticket, Fox, KFXL weather. Brought to you by Bryant Air Conditioning, Heating, Electrical, and Plumbing.
Your Lincoln forecast for today, expecting mainly sunny skies, but it will be windy. See a high around 77. Tonight, a chance of showers and storms with a low around 49. And tomorrow, a slight chance of showers in the morning, otherwise mainly sunny and breezy. And the afternoon high around 69. Meteorologist Kyle Carriker for 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Spring is here, and it's time to wake up Judson. Judson Irrigation is eager and ready to get your sprinkler system up and running for the season. Judson's technicians will check for winter damage, adjust your sprinkler heads, and show you how to set your controller for effective sprinkling coverage. The Judson Irrigation team is here for you. Stay safe.
Keep summer green. Call Judson Irrigation 402-420-6277 or JudsonIrrigation.com.
On the Block with Strick and Austin.
When you're in New York, Nick, in New York, I mean, you're talking about, you see mafioso types. You go into a restaurant and you would literally eat. Hey, come on over here. You know, they I don't know how to say it. I don't got the accent, but they would say, come, Strick, come here, come over. Have a drink on me. And what are you going to do? Say no?
You not say
you
no
don't
to that?
say no to the drink. You don't say no.
Weekdays from 2 to 4 on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Spring is here, and Acres is offering special financing on select new John Deere lawn tractors and zero-turn mowers. Visit your nearest Acres store and test drive all the latest John Deere turf equipment and attachments. And for a limited time, with the purchase of a new John Deere mower, get up to $200 to apply to the steel power tool of your choice. From trimmers to chainsaws, gas or electric, Acres is your home for steel products and service. Offer expires April 30, 2024. Subject to approved credit by John Deere Financial.
Grab a free burger and beer at LA Power Sports of Lincoln on April 27th during their Husker Spring Game tailgate. Meet the LA Power Sports team, play some tailgate games with them, and enter for a chance to win an official John Elway autographed football. Check out their huge selection of boats and watercraft for the summer, along with hundreds of motorcycles, ATVs, and side-by-sides from all the major brands. Stop out and watch the game with them on April 27th, LA Power Sports of Lincoln, 27th and I-80. They'll be tailgating all day.
You're listening to Adam Carriker on The Ticket on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Adam Carriker on The Ticket. I got a special guest, but right before I bring him on, just a reminder, you can always check out the Carriker Chronicles at carrikerchronicles.com and on the YouTube page as well. And as always, you can send in your questions, thoughts, concerns, or otherwise throughout this fine program. Send them in to Zach as well while I'm talking to Zach Wiegert at 402-464-5685. Now it's time to bring on my special guest. He's a 3-time first-team All-Big 8 performer, 2-time All-American, and a first-team unanimous All-American in 1994, UPI Lineman of the Year, Outland Trophy winner, national champ, all in that same season, 1994 as well. Second-round pick and played 12 years in the NFL. Mr. Zach Wiegert, how you doing, my friend?
Geez, Adam, you sure make me feel good on a Monday.
Hey, man, I just look up and I write down what, because the internet's always accurate, but I write down what Wikipedia tells me, and then I research it. Dude, it's 100% true. You're one of the best to ever do it. And so it leads to my first question, because last year there were some things the offensive line did really, really well. Obviously, there's always things to improve on. So my question for you right off the top is, what, in your opinion, did the offensive line do well last year, and what's the biggest thing they could potentially improve on going into this fall?
I think the best thing they did, I actually went to a practice and actually was asked by Dominic to give my comments a couple of times, which I appreciated. And, to me, it was, I gave him a little talk, and it was all about aggressiveness. All my coaches were always, everyone makes a mistake in a game, goes the wrong way, hits the wrong guy, does something. But usually if you do it going 100 miles an hour, trying to knock somebody out, you get mostly forgiven. And so that was probably the biggest part of it. I just think that they played much more aggressively and didn't back down from some teams that had some really good players, obviously, in the Big Ten. So I think, I always tell people that effort gets you a long ways. And I think they played physical with effort, which is frankly the two most important things in offensive line. When I talk to our line, I was like, well, why can't we be the aggressor? They always act like offensive linemen catch and defensive linemen are aggressors. Well, I was like, no, we're the aggressors. I mean, we're the ones that know where the play's going. So why aren't we not the aggressors? So I think they did a good job with that. I think technically they still need to work on techniques and things that, take years to master, which I think they're getting to be technical, better players too. Strength, conditioning, all those types of things. But probably the biggest thing they need to go for is confidence. Someone asked me, I don't know, a couple years ago, well, what's wrong with the line? I said, well, when you're down on the 5-yard line and the coach chooses to pass 3 times in a row, if you're a lineman, well, would you have any confidence? So I think that's part of it too, is I think Coach Rule and his staff are putting stress on the offensive line to perform and to run the ball in situations where you need to be able to run the ball, which I think will grow their confidence. So
what are your impressions of offensive line coach Donovan Raiola to this point?
Yeah, Donovan. I'm sorry, it's Dominic. I know his brother.
Oh, all good.
Donovan Raiola. I think he's great. He's intense. I think another thing I found great about him was his willingness to actually listen to somebody. That I just say, hey, coach this way to do that to me, and he was actually willing to listen and is always willing to reach out to be the best coach he can be. Almost every coach that I talked to had another coach at some time they learned techniques from that they instituted themselves. And so I think that's probably his strength is, sometimes you get people that think they know everything and they don't improve, but he seems to want to be a lifetime learner, which is how you get better at your trade. And so I think that's a big thing, but, and obviously he's full of energy. He's willing to put in the time and effort. And like I said, I don't think, Coach Rule would have him on the staff if he didn't sit in on that staff, because it seems like all of his coaches are kind of built that way.
As an offensive lineman, because there's a good chance we have a true freshman starting a quarterback this year. Now, if it is Harburg, he's an upperclassman. He started some games. But as an offensive lineman, does your approach change at all? If you have a freshman quarterback behind you getting the snaps versus a veteran quarterback, does that change your approach to how you play as an O-lineman at all?
I would say it depends. That's a really good question. I would say it depends on the freshman quarterback, and it depends on the offensive lineman. Our offensive line with Sty and Zadika and Wilkes and Graham and that whole group, I mean, if you had asked us, we could have had anyone off the street play behind us. You couldn't have convinced us we couldn't have won with them playing quarterback.
Yep.
That's just the confidence level we had. Right, wrong, or indifferent. I mean, you could say we're cocky, but yeah, we were. We expected to win. And we looked at our job as to dominate the guys across from us regardless who's behind us. That's how we looked at it. Now, I can say, being in a position where a freshman quarterback came in a game and played, Tommy Frazier in Missouri, my sophomore year, he came in and instantly in 3 plays, they're going like, well, he's going to be the starter forever here. I mean, you could just see it. So, I mean, he made a move, dove over somebody from the 6-yard line, dove in for a touchdown the first drive he was ever in a game. So there is that boost you can get from a truly great athlete. But I would tell the offensive line, hey, you should be in your own O-line room betting against your buddies of who's going to knock the most people off their feet in the game and worry about that and let the quarterback take care of his position.
Yep. That makes a lot of sense. Now, there's a lot of experienced guys, a lot of 4th-year seniors, 5th-year seniors, 6-year seniors, guys that are like 22, 23, 24 on this offensive line. There's 7 guys who've started games in their college football career, 152 total starts across the front. Do you think it's fairly realistic to expect a pretty good jump in play and improvement from the offensive line this fall?
Oh, you never know until you actually play the game. You would think with more experience and people coming back and being in the system longer, you would think you would see a jump. It all comes down to how everybody gels. The group I named, we played together for 4 years. I mean, Graham was 1 year younger, but so our whole line's, 3 years together.
Mm-hmm.
I think so. We didn't even have to make calls, and we knew where we were going and what we were doing. And we were let loose in a system that was all about aggressiveness and speed of play and all that. So you would hope you would see a big jump in play, just because there's a resume of people that played a lot. Doesn't mean that you get that. So I would tell them to focus on doing your job, and when you get in there, be the most aggressive player you can be. And but it all comes down to working as a unit. It really does. With offensive line, if you have one weak spot, they find it.
Now, Steven sent in a comment, and I think this is per my previous interview with Joe Hutmacher, Nash's dad. Steven. Steven says we need defensive ends to get to the quarterback with a hard middle push. And again, that's going back to the more defensive line conversation I had with Joe Hutmacher, and that's a great point, Steven. If anyone else has a question, thought, concern, or otherwise, send it to 402-464-5685. Now, Zach, I'm curious, have you been inside the new gargantuan Husker weight room? And I'm curious, and I think I know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask it because it's a fun question to ask. How big of a role did Husker power play in your guys' success as an offensive line when you played?
Before I answer, I'm going to say yes. Inside push with a fast guy off the outside is how you get sacks and make quarterbacks get rid of the ball. That's a great point. Yep. And Adam, you know that as well as anyone. As far as the Husker power, it was a running joke with our group, and I'm sure you're old enough, Adam, to have heard it. Like, we used to get run out of the weight room by Boyd Epley, and at the time we had one of the largest weight rooms. Time goes by; it'll be 30 years ago. We prided ourselves. We just outworked everyone we played against, and we went in and as a unit would stay in. He'd be turning the lights out on us. I think if it wasn't all five of us, at least four of the five of us were on the platform for all the testing and lifting and running drills and the grading they did with that, which is kind of the pinnacle of being, as far as the workout regime from Nebraska is being on the platform. It was definitely, I never even lifted weights before I came to college. And so it was a huge advantage. We all came in when we were like 250 pounds, and we all grew into the linemen, we're all 310, 315, whatever. These guys are so big coming in now, but if you're not working out correctly, being big doesn't do anything for you. You have to be fast and strong and big and flexible and all those things. It's not just being big. So, I would say, to have that facility from both a performance enhancing of the existing players and recruiting nationally should be a big boost for the program.
All right, man, we're going to go back to your playing days at this point, even a little bit more. And I got a couple of questions pertaining to that Orange Bowl, specifically 1995 Orange Bowl. There's the infamous picture, the famous picture of you guys in the fourth quarter. You're huddled up. It's a timeout. You're staring at the Miami D-line. They're on their knees. They're clearly exhausted. They're wiped out. So my question is, while you guys are in the huddle and you're staring at them, and you can see that they're done. They were running around all over the field, talking the smack for 3 quarters, then all of a sudden they were done. You could just tell. What was running through your guys' heads at that moment while you stared at them during that timeout?
Oh, that we were, we had turned the ball over going into the end zone, and no one even flinched. What was going through my head is that all of our hard work had paid off, that we were going to win the football game. It's funny you always talk about that picture because the other 4 guys on the line with me are always laughing. I'm always the one talking smack to the guys on the defensive line versus
yep.
And you can tell in that picture I'm pacing up and down the line, telling them how tired they look. But if you look at the week before that, with all the articles that came out, they all talk smack, and I say, how about we just see how the game goes?
Mm-hmm.
I would say I think that is the epitome of what the workout programs, playing as a unit, having confidence as a unit, being aggressive, listening to your coaches, and at the end of the day, talk's cheap. By the end of that game, we're playing them, and everyone forgets, we play them on their home football field.
I remember.
When we played the Orange Bowl, it was played on Miami's home field. It's no longer played there. So all the years we traveled, I would love to, we always said, hey, come play us January 1st in Lincoln, see how you guys do.
Yep.
They wouldn't even been able to get off the bus. But it's interesting to see, this many years later, it's still what wins football games, just playing as a unit, positive attitude, hard work. Those are all things you can't replace.
All right, man. So some folks may remember this, but Brendan Stye actually switched guard spots so that he could go head-to-head with Warren Sapp of Miami. And, oh, man, it was maybe a year ago, maybe longer than that, Rob Zadika was talking on his podcast, Doc Talk Sports, about how the first couple practices, the new guard that was next to him, their steps, they weren't quite used to being next to each other, and they kind of stepped on each other until they got used to each other. What was that process for you like as the other offensive tackle? Because you were working with a new guard as well. Was there a learning process to that, or did you guys kind of just blend in pretty quickly getting ready for that Orange Bowl?
Yeah, I would say Coach Tennifer has been quoted saying this many times. It was a big mistake to move them around. I think Wilkes would have done fine. We probably been more in sync just because we practiced together for the bowl game enough, and we all knew the plays. It's just your numbering and your calls are different than you're used to when you start switching people around. I would say that it would have probably been better to leave everyone where they were. Obviously, Warren was a good football player, but Sty and I were used to playing each other. We played with each other in the pros for a couple of years as well, and we were always in sync playing next to one another. So what you may have as a tough matchup on one side makes for one side that's more dominant. Just from being used to working with one another. So yeah, I would say that given that situation again, that wouldn't have happened. But at the end of the day, it worked out fine, and Sty did a good job. And at the end of the day, we used Sap's own speed getting off the ball against him and score a couple touchdowns, which was the plan.
Yep, those two fullback trap plays for touchdowns. That was I've always thought Tom Osborne gets all sorts of credit, and rightfully so, but I've always thought that one particular adjustment that he made to use Warren Sapp's explosiveness against him, which led to two fullback touchdowns in the game, I don't think that's been talked about enough. Somehow, some way, it hasn't been talked about enough, in my opinion. Last two questions I got for you, kind of fun questions. All right, 1994, Penn State's undefeated, Nebraska's undefeated. Obviously, you guys are the national champs. Okay, you guys play head-to-head on the field. How does that game go?
We kill them, and they know it.
I love it.
I played with Cal Brady down at Jacksonville, and we talked to crap all the time. We almost got in a big brawl at one of the All-American deals late at night. They're talking smack with Kajana Carter and all those guys, but no, I mean, there was a reason why we were unanimous number one by all the coaches and everybody. And the reason we won it the next year, and the reason that we got screwed out of a championship the year before that, because that was one of the most dominant teams in college football. So I would add to those two plays that Osborne, the timing of running them, I guarantee you in the fourth quarter, at the end of the game, nobody wants to run in front of Corey Schlesinger running full speed downhill. That's true.
There's a lot of truth to that. He used to come back and work out with us in the summers when I was playing. I mean, he stepped foot on the field, and he was not one of the fastest fullbacks. He was one of the fastest running backs as we were doing our drills with each other, and he would hop on in. So I was always insanely impressed by that. Okay, and then last question I got for you, and this comes from good old Doc again. He's mentioned, and I've asked him when he's joined me on the shows, but he's mentioned on his show as well, if 94 Nebraska could somehow play 95 Nebraska, he has said that 95 Nebraska are the 94 Nebraska starters. He's their backups, the 95 guys. So he thinks 94 would win. So I got to ask you, who would win? The 94 Huskers in this hypothetical, fictitious, very fun matchup, or the 95 Huskers?
Well, I mean, 94 would completely dominate them. Everyone forgot about all the injuries and stuff we had and still won a championship. Yep. And then Beatty came in the national championship that had 9 first-round draft picks on their defense.
Yep.
And I would just say that because we spent the whole reason 95 won is because we beat them up for enough years to toughen them up. So
I like it. That's awesome.
You take the 94 team and the 95 team, and you take between those two teams, on the 94 team, there was probably 22 draft picks because we had 11 or 12 off of my team. Well, now you have all of them on one team playing the other team, right? So you remove all the 94 guys, but you still have all the 95 guys as juniors that played. I don't know how you beat that team.
I love that answer. That's an awesome, fun answer, but I love it. And it's consistent. I've asked other guys that senior year was 94 as well. It's consistent across the board. 94 would win. That's the consensus, ladies and gentlemen. All right, Zach, I appreciate you taking the time.
deal with the 95 team was scared after watching our film from 94. Let's just say that.
I love it. I love it. Hey, man, I appreciate you taking the time to join me. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Ever stare at the Hog Wild menu and feel like you just can't make up your mind because it all looks so good? Well, when I want a little bit of everything, I get a little bit of everything on Hog Wild Smokestack Sandwich. On a butter-toasted bun, we pile on our hickory-smoked beef brisket and juicy hot links. The hard part is choosing between fresh curly fries, classic baked beans, or coleslaw on the side. Order online at GoHogWild.com. Hog Wild Pit Barbecue, 3210 Cornhusker Highway in Lincoln.
Spring is here, and it's time to wake up Judson. Judson Irrigation is eager and ready to get your sprinkler system up and running for the season. Judson's technicians will check for winter damage, adjust your sprinkler heads, and show you how to set your controller for effective sprinkling coverage. The Judson Irrigation team is here for you. Stay safe.
Keep summer green. Call Judson Irrigation 402-420-6277 or judsonirrigation.com.
Hi, this is State Senator Carolyn Bosn. Education is a cornerstone to building a strong, vibrant community. I voted for the historic increase in funding for education in the legislature. As a state senator, wife, and mom, I believe Lincoln is a great place to work and raise a family. My husband Reggie and I are local business owners and understand the valuable role of education in our community. This is Carolyn Bosn, and I am asking for your vote on May 14th, paid for by Bosn for Legislature.
Spring is here, and Acres is offering special financing on select new John Deere lawn tractors and zero-turn mowers. Visit your nearest Acres store and test drive all the latest John Deere turf equipment and attachments. And for a limited time, with the purchase of a new John Deere mower, get up to $200 to apply to the steel power tool of your choice. From trimmers to chainsaws, gas or electric, Acres is your home for steel products and service. Offer expires April 30, 2024. Subject to approved credit by John Deere Financial.
Your home is your empire. Protect it with Empire Fence. Get a free instant quote with the online estimating tool at empire-fence.com. See an upfront estimate with no hidden fees. An Empire Fence can provide privacy and improve the appearance of your home. Keep kids and pets in or out of your yard. Increase security and add value to your property. Visit empire-fence.com now to view the stylish and maintenance-free possibilities for your home and get a free instant online quote. Let Empire Fence protect your empire.
Grab a free burger and beer at LA Power Sports of Lincoln on April 27th during their Husker Spring Game tailgate. Meet the LA Power Sports team, play some tailgate games with them, and enter for a chance to win an official John Elway autographed football. Check out their huge selection of boats and watercraft for the summer, along with hundreds of motorcycles, ATVs, and side-by-sides from all the major brands. Stop out and watch the game with them on April 27th, LA Power Sports of Lincoln, 27th and I-80. They'll be tailgating all day.
If you're a homeowner or a business owner, you have a lot of projects, and no one has an unlimited budget or time. Sunbelt Rentals makes all jobs less stressful with no need to purchase large equipment or hire a crew. You can do it yourself with rentals and everything from aerators and power rakes for spring yard work to stump grinders, concrete mixers, tile saws, and more. Check out their inventory in Lincoln, north of Cornhusker Highway on 56th Street, or online at sunbeltrentals.com.
One action, no matter how small, can have a world of impact on the life of a child. Cedar started because one couple believed that they could provide a child with a better life. And that belief grew into the Cedars that we know today, a powerful force for good that helps thousands of kids across Nebraska. Belief grows.
Hi everyone, Kendall Warnock, A1 Automotive in downtown Lincoln. Spring is here, summer is fast approaching. With weddings, vacations, and weekend getaways on your mind, do not let car issues prevent you from getting where you need to be. Car problems shouldn't be something that you put up with. Let us get you back on the road in comfort and safety. We diagnose all makes and models from Porsches to Hondas, Toyotas, and Chevrolets. We fix a variety of issues with all of them with our talented techs and our experienced staff. A1 Automotive at 11th and L, downtown Lincoln, always honest answers.
Hi, it's Charlie Stone back with the latest update from Andy Goodyear of Honda of Lincoln. Andy, your new car selection keeps getting better and better every month. Can you tell our listeners all about it?
You know, it sure is, Charlie. It's great that our customers can come in,
pick out a new Honda and drive away with it that day.
How many new Hondas do you have in stock?
Well, right now we have just about 100 in stock.
Hey, I hear you've won some very important awards in your service department. Tell us about them.
Well, the first one is we won the award for the first fixed award. So the cars are actually fixed on the very first time they're brought in. Second award is our Customer Service Experience Award. And then our third award is our Honda Express Service Elite. And we rank the best in quality and customer satisfaction.
Maybe it's time you come experience the Honda of Lincoln way of doing business. 27th and Yankee Hill Road or online at hondaoflincoln.com.
Rashawn Jackson here for Bauer Infrastructure, a veteran-owned local company proudly serving Lincoln, Lancaster County, and the surrounding areas. Bauer provides quality work at an affordable price, and they're growing rapidly. If you want to experience a career with a fast-paced, family-friendly environment, visit BauerInfrastructure.com. They have top-of-the-line benefits, year-round work, even through the winter. Bauer, usher in the new era of infrastructure to an area near you. And as always, go Big Red.
93.7 The Ticket, Fox, KFXL weather. Brought to you by Bryant Air Conditioning, Heating, Electrical, and Plumbing.
Your Lincoln forecast for today, expecting mainly sunny skies, but it will be windy. See a high around 77. Tonight, a chance of showers and storms with a low around 49. And tomorrow, a slight chance of showers in the morning. Otherwise, mainly sunny and breezy. And the afternoon high around 69. Meteorologist Kyle Carriker for 93.7 Ticket and theticketfm.com.
This is Lincoln's home for sports talk on the FM dial. Also online at theticketfm.com. On the internet. KNTK FM Firth. 93.7 The Ticket. Early break with Sip and Jake.
Nobody goes to McDonald's more than you. Nobody.
No,
every meal,
I
every call. I mean, every meal.
Every morning you're there.
Every morning goes to McDonald's
every single day. I do it. Oh, I go every day.
Is it? Yeah. How many times? What I mean. That's a lot.
How many? I mean, sometimes
I'm saying in the next year I go 9 times. I go 9. For me. I'm not going 9 times.
Oh, I mean 7 times a week. 7 times a week.
That's what I mean. Yeah. But there's a lot of times though. You go more than once a day.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, so I'm telling you. So it's
but
500.
I just get coffee.
But you go 500 times a year. That's a lot. 500 times a year. The most I'm at is 9. I'm at 9. Jake's at 4, and you're at 500.
I say 4 to 5 for myself.
So I said 9. You said 500.
Put it that way.
It is. Just do the math.
Early break with Sip and Jake from 6 to 8 every weekday morning on 93.7 The Ticket.
If you're a homeowner or a business owner, you have a lot of projects, and no one has an unlimited budget or time. Sunbelt Rentals makes all jobs less stressful with no need to purchase large equipment or hire a crew. You can do it yourself with rentals and everything from aerators and power rakes for spring yard work to stump grinders, concrete mixers, tile saws, and more. Check out their inventory in Lincoln, north of Cornhusker Highway on 56th Street, or online at sunbeltrentals.com.
You're listening to Adam Carriker on The Ticket on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Boom. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Adam Carriker on The Ticket. It is the final segment of today's show. Now, I want to be clear. Nick Saban is arguably the greatest college football coach of all time. Obviously, Tom Osborne is in this conversation. You can throw other guys out there as well. Bear Bryant, Newt Rockne, etc. Some of these other guys. Okay, so I want to preface this, what I'm about to say, because I'm going to chat about Nick Saban's NIL hypocrisy here in a second. But I want to preface it that I got nothing but respect for one of the greatest to ever do it, and he's got nothing to prove to anybody ever again in his lifetime, including me. But this is my show, so here are my thoughts. So, Nick Saban, we're just going to read through a little bit of this article, okay, per Alabama Fan Nation. So, ex-Alabama head coach Nick Saban has endorsed the idea of sharing revenue directly with college football players and other NCAA athletes when speaking to a panel that including U.S. senators focused on NIL issues in Washington. Now, this was a few weeks ago. Okay, if you've listened to my show, I've been trying to get this in for quite a while, but the show's always so loaded. Okay, and you can check out all the stuff that I do here on 93.7 The Ticket, theticket.com. You can check out CarrikerChronicles.com and Carriker Chronicles on YouTube as well. But, and I quote, if we had some sort of revenue-sharing propositions that did not make student-athlete employees, I think that may be the long-term solution, end quote, Saban said to a panel led by Senator Ted Cruz of Texas. and I understand. We're trying to find ways to play student athletes without making them employees. But let's be honest. We're just playing stupid if we don't realize they're basically employees. I know what NIL is supposed to do, but we all know what it's actually doing. It's paying them to basically make them employees, even though it's supposed to be name, image, and likeness, and they're not directly supposed to be getting paid in some certain ways. Okay, but I digress. Here goes Saban again. You could create a better quality of life for student athletes. You could still emphasize development. You can still create brand and athletic development with a system like that, and it would be equal in all institutions. End quote. Saban added, you couldn't raise more money at one school to create a competitive advantage than at another. Ever since NIL was introduced at college football and other sports nearly 3 years ago, the NCAA has remained largely unable to enforce a single set of rules, with individual states taking the lead on their own legislation, resulting in confusion among coaches, schools, and other personnel involved in the practice. He said, and I quote, we have collectives that in some places are raising huge amounts of money and going to compete against places that do not have the same resources to raise those kinds of funds to pay players. End quote. Okay, and here's some of his final quotes that I actually underlined. And I quote, you have a pay-for-play system, like when you pay somebody to work, that's basically known as an employee. Okay, and a free agency system that has no guidelines, so there's no competitive balance. I think there's going to be a lot of places that will say that, and we'll create a cased system where the rich get richer and the poor will get poorer, and eventually fans will look at it and say, I don't really want to watch this game, end quote. I don't think fans are going to say that. Whether you like NIL or not, it's here. People have accepted it. Same thing with the transfer portal. Whether you like it or not, it's here. People have accepted it. Okay, now you got to keep in mind, Saban basically said one of the major reasons he retired and left the game of college football after a illustrious career was because of NIL. He would meet with players and, much like an employee, they would be like, well, how much do you think I can make next year? Now, he's old school, and I respect that. He wants to focus on developing players, and they ultimately get paid in the NFL. That's what he's done for years, and that's been his model. And he even said to his wife, I don't think we can do that anymore here at Alabama. Now, this is the same guy who flat out said that Jimbo Fisher and Texas A&M bought their recruiting class, which has since fallen apart, but at the time was the number one recruiting class in college football history of all time, number one of all time, not just that year. He basically said they bought and paid for the recruiting class. Didn't work out so well for Fisher or A&M, but nobody knew that at the time. It's kind of like Saban was used to doing it a certain way. He sees that that's not the way he can do it anymore. Maybe, and this is crazy to me, to complain about some universities and some programs having an advantage over another. You would think Alabama would be one of those universities. And so for him to talk about everyone should be equal, that kind of surprised me. It's great in theory, and he's right. It is the wild, wild west when it comes to the NIL, when it comes to the transfer portal. It is beyond the wild west. He's not wrong in any of that. But the impression that I got was that he felt like Alabama couldn't keep up with these other schools, which I find hard to believe. But he kept coming back to the equality thing. And if you're a school that can have an advantage over other schools, you're not going to care about equality. You're only going to care about equality if you can't keep up with everyone else. And so it's like what he had done for so long, which is focus on developing players who didn't get paid that much, and then they go to the NFL and make money. He didn't feel like he could do that anymore. He didn't feel like, apparently, Alabama could keep up with these other schools, which I still find mind-blowing as far as NIL and bringing in transfer portal players and getting high school players to commit to Alabama. He felt like it couldn't work anymore. And basically, it almost came across like, because of that, he was against college players being paid and making them employees, which is essentially what they are. Whether that's inside the actual guidelines right now or not, everyone knows that's what they are. It's like he was against that, which here's where the hypocrisy comes in. This is a man who's made millions and millions of dollars, rightfully so, because he's great at what he does, but then had an issue when the athletes had the opportunity to do the same thing because he felt like he couldn't keep up with it rather than adjust to the curve. And the man's in his 70s. He has nothing to prove. He doesn't have to stay. Had he walked away for a different reason or not said these things, I would have felt differently. But to me, it came across a little bit hypocritical, like I'm going to make millions, but not everybody should, and everybody should be treated equal because Alabama may not be able to keep up financially with bringing in these recruits, which shocks me to this day. And I may be wrong in that, but I don't know why he would keep bringing up that equality thing otherwise. And so for me, it just kind of struck me as one of the greatest of all time, who doesn't have to prove anything to anyone, in his 70s, but who didn't walk away from the game of football. He's still going to be on game day. He clearly doesn't want to be done with the game, of football. I don't know. It just kind of didn't make sense to me. It came across a little hypocritical in my opinion, but all due respect, those are just my thoughts, my opinion. That's what I give here on the Carriker Chronicles. So One last question from a fan. I want to give a shout out to Robert Grunder. He said, talking about fullback touchdowns, going back to the Zach Wiegert interview. If you missed that, go back and check it out. Joe Hutmaker, if you missed that interview, go back and check it out. If you missed the Bill Goldberg interview, where he basically said AEW is way too cheesy and not good enough for him, but go back and check out that interview from Friday if you missed those. But Robert Grunder said, talking about fullback touchdowns, this is going back to the Wiegert interview, does Nebraska even have fullbacks on the roster? So yes, as a matter of fact, they do. They actually have a pretty good one who was banged up a lot last year, and he was a freshman. He was young. He didn't get to play a ton. But Janarian Bonner is a guy to keep your eye on. As we start to use fullbacks more and more, okay, if that is indeed what we do, we got a lot of wide receivers that are pretty good, tight ends that are good. Who knows what we're going to do? That's the guy who can play. And I've heard from people inside the facility that they think the world of him now that he's healthy. Okay, Barrett Libentrit, who is a junior, is also a guy to keep your eye on at the fullback position. All right, another comment came in. Blue Boston Terriers rock. That's the name, not my opinion. Okay, I don't agree or disagree. Don't know much about Blue Boston Terriers, but he says Tuscaloosa ain't Lincoln. NIL money is probably a challenge in Alabama. And that's the only conclusion I can come to is Saban's like, I can't do it the way I've done it. I don't think Alabama can keep up, which is mind-blowing to me. And it's interesting because there are some recruiting disadvantages to Nebraska. The state is phenomenal, but one of the advantages is NIL. There is money in Nebraska, and there are passionate fans and passionate people who want to help the program, from fans to business owners to people who have big pocketbooks and checkbooks to everybody who just wants to help the program. I think NIL actually helps Nebraska because of that. Saban's one of the best to ever do it. Comments just didn't quite make a whole lot of sense to me, but I wish him the best on game day. He's a man who can definitely sell things, and I mean that in a positive manner. I think he's going to endear himself to college football fans pretty quickly as a general whole. All right, until next time, Husker Nation, go big red, and always remember to throw the bugs.